like to welcome you all to Startup Grind Ottawa in June. Please, give a big round of applause for Ali Zahid from Toronto.
Thanks, guys.
You got a seat. We're gonna get to work. So, just a little bit of a quick intro to Ali and Vanhawks. So he's the CEO of Vanhawks. Vanhawks. I guess the idea started right before Founder Fuel. We'll kind of get into that. They went to Founder Fuel. They ended up launching a Kickstarter campaign 12 days before Demo Day, which is the end of basically the Founder Fuel campaign. And they ended up raising their initial goal of 100K within 30 hours, and then they ended up raising 8 times their total goal, coming close to a lot of money and selling bikes. So we're gonna get started. Dude, so how are you?
Good. I like Ottawa. It's been a while since I've been here, so thank you guys for having me today. It means a lot.
Wicked. Well, thanks for coming up. So just to kind of get you started and kind of let us kind of get to know you a little bit, where are you originally from?
So I was born and raised in Pakistan. I came here in grade 6. English is my 4th language, so learning it was a bit long haul. I was in Mississauga. I grew up in Toronto area, and I went to Queens. I dropped out in my 3rd year, which is around 4 months ago, and here I am.
So so you went to Queens, but what did you study there?
So I was studying biomedical computing there. So it was a mishmash program of life sciences, computer science, mech eng, and electrical eng. It was like a massive, this weird program. We only had 10 people in that program, and it's I think it's only 6 left, and almost all of them are going to med school now. So it's a very small program.
And so what was your family life like growing up? Were there any entrepreneurs?
No, so both of my parents are doctors. Both of them are surgeons. So it was we were not anywhere close to being entrepreneurs. It was just more like my brother, who is our CEO, was also in med school, so he was doing his PhD and he was also doing his MD. He dropped out of that to come run this company with us. So all 4 of the co-founders are dropouts. Which is kind of weird, but that's who we are.
Cool. And so just before we kind of get into Founder Fuel, where did your inspiration or motivation for entrepreneurship come from? How did you go from being this crazy biomedical engineering student to I want to start a company?
So when I was in Queens, I was always that kind of a guy who really didn't like school. I was more towards this is cool, I like learning, but I don't want to go do a job kind of thing. I got introduced to Mike Schmidt, who also went to Founder Fuel, became a good friend of mine, and he came to speak at a conference at Queens. I met up with him. He invited 30 of the guys to come down to Montreal. He was part of Founder Fuel at that moment. No one went. I got a ticket the next day. I showed up in front of his doorstep, and he's like, "What the hell? You actually came?" I was pretty drunk when I invited you, and I was like, "Well, dude, I'm here now." So I stayed with him for a week. Kind of got rolling with this entrepreneurship thing. And he introduced me to Founder Fuel and kind of showed me what the whole program was like. I got really interested, and that was my first ever gain into becoming an entrepreneur.
So how did you guys come up with the idea for Vanhawks? What was the motivation?
Yeah, so Vanhawks was so my brother and his best friend were working on it for a while.
What does it do? Sorry, just
okay. Well. Yeah, so Vanhawks. Do you want to explain the company? Yeah. So we are the first ever connected bicycle in Canada or in the world, and it's the first ever urban commuting bike. So connects to your smartphone, super light, super good looking, and so it has a lot of features. So it has our main focus was the commuter, and we build the whole company around the commuter. So getting someone from point A to point B, which means in a sense that we created the blind spot detection system. Which if there's a car in your blind spot, the bike lets you know. If you go into your friend's place and you don't know the address, you're not biking with your phone out in your face, because that's too many times I've seen it happen, and hitting a car or something. That's why we integrated the navigation system into the handlebar. Excuse me. And on top of that, every time you hit a pothole, we detect that. So in the future, what we want to do is we can pretty much lay out a heat map on top of a city and be like, this is where all the bad roads are, this is where the good roads are, and we want to architecture the cities in the future to accommodate more biking. Because the way I see it is there's going to be 2 ways of urban commuting. It's going to be self-driving cars, and it's going to be biking. and we want to be the guys who create that momentum to making sure that biking will be the future of urban transportation.
So how did you guys all get together with this vision?
Yeah,
for, like,
sorry, I keep
Google...
like...
No, it's all good. It's all good. You're doing great.
My brother and his best friend were working on the carbon fiber technology, and his best friend, they were in boarding school together. They went to school together, and they departed away when they went to university. So they were playing around with how to fold carbon fiber in a unique way. So that's where our innovation is, that we don't fold carbon fiber the old way. This is completely new. So the old traditional carbon fiber is like you got a lot of manual labor. They take sheets and they wrap it around a mold, they blow it, and that's how you create it. Whereas what we did was we took a mold, we lay the sheet out, and we have a single mold piece of bike coming out of there, which is really interesting. And on top of that, since my brother was in med school and like our whole healthcare family is like that, we thought about like it'll be cool to have bones inside of your bike. So if you actually cut open our bike, wherever there's a stress force, there's an internal wall running inside of it. So imagine taking a left or a right and putting pressure on it. There's an internal wall making it stronger and lighter.
So it's like a joint inside the bike.
It's not really a joint. It's like having walls, pretty much. So if you ever cut open your bone, it's like a web in there, right? That's exactly what's inside of our bike. It's like a web that makes it stronger and lighter.
Cool. I try not to cut my bones open. So how did you guys go out and validate this idea before Founder Fuel? How did you guys, decide that I'm going to build a product kind of company, and it's going to be a bike? How did you validate that?
Wow, that's like a while ago now. A lot of different ways. So we always knew that we wanted to create a bike, but we didn't know what kind of bike we wanted to create. And we realized that like we ourselves are commuters and we're not like crazy bike racers. And we wanted to create something that we uniquely loved and a product that we would use every single day ourselves. And that was our driving force in creating the Valor, which is completely unique and completely different. So we looked at our own pain stakes of like what we hated in a bike. We tried to create something around those pain points that we did not like. And the way I validated a lot of the ideas was Shopify was one of the good ones. So I went into all 3 Shopify, offices, did one-on-one customer interviews, sat with them, and talked to the people who use the bike every single day, and asked them questions like, "What do you hate? What do you like?" And I went to PwC, I went to Bain & Company, I went to McKinsey, I went to all these big consulting firms. I'm like, "You guys bike a lot. You guys have a lot of money. What do you guys hate?" So it's like I did a lot. So even before we launched our product or starting to do our product features, I did more than 100 customer interviews, knowing that this is what people want and this is what people are craving for. So I hope that helps.
Yeah. And so at what point afterwards were you guys kind of introduced to accelerators like Founder Fuel? Why did you decide to go that route instead of just building it yourself?
Money was a big thing. So no one, every time we pitched someone that like, "Oh yeah, we want to create this bike of the future," they're like, "Are you crazy?" And everyone thought like you would need like at least 20 to 30 million poured into it. And we bootstrapped everything from the starting. That like our dad checked us like a $10,000 check, and he's like, "This is my check. This is gonna make sure that you guys stay in school." And we're like, "Yes." So he gave us that check, making sure that like we will stay in school. But that kind of backfired. So that was like where we bootstrapped last summer. We kind of got the mold running, started the process, made our first prototype, and then we came to a point where we were like, well, now we kind of need money to pay ourselves if we were going to quit school. And that's when I met Ian Jeffrey from Founder Fuel in Toronto. I met him the day after my brother got married. So my brother got married, and I was like, it's the worst time to get married, dude. Like, we're going to a startup. He's like, I don't care. But now it's like, he's like, my only baby is like Vanhawks. Like, this is good. So yeah, I met Ian Jeffrey. I pitched it to him, and he was like, I really like you guys. And he brought us in.
Wicked. And so what was the experience working inside Founder Fuel with mentors, and how was that 3 months?
It's like boot camp, man. That's the way I like to think about it. It's like, it's literally a Red Bull for your startup. And if you use it the right way, it can really, 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 really excel you really fast. And it can excel you either 2 ways. It can excel you to a failure, which is perfect because you took 3 months to validate your idea and you were like, yes, this is not going to work, close it. Or it can take that 3 months and can be like, you found the perfect product fit and the market is like killing for this product, and now you're venture backed, ready, and you can go out and raise the money. And they teach you, one of the things that they teach you is how to be good at storytelling, and which is a lot of entrepreneurs sometimes miss. And being good at telling your stories, selling your vision, selling why you're creating this. What is your gut feeling that makes you to drive to do this? Why do you wake up every single morning? And why am I going to write you a $2 million check to go out and do this? And Founder Fuel really hones your skills on that and lets you learn what to do in that area.
But you guys had already kind of proven out the product market fit to a certain degree. I mean, you had 100 customer interviews. Was that enough to kind of?
No, not at all. Because we were asking them to pour in $1,500 to buy a bike, and they're like, I haven't seen the bike, and I was like, well, you just gotta trust me. But those 100 ones just one-on-one. But I had an email list of around 1,000 people. The people who said yes, I want to buy this bike, or I think I'm interested in knowing more about it. And that's how I syndicated the Kickstarter. But I think you're gonna get into that.
Yeah, we're gonna get into that in a bit. Yeah. So I'm really interested a little bit because a lot of companies usually don't pick hardware or an actual product to build, and so building a product business, and you guys have multiple pieces, right? It's the bike, there's the app. And I guess a website to a certain degree. So
yeah.
How did you guys actually put all these pieces together? What's it like building a product company, a physical product company?
It's really hard, really hard. Because at one point, all of us one guy was in China, one guy was in Pakistan, I was in Montreal, one guy's in New York. We were very we work as one unit, but each one of us can work separately and do everything that they need to do. So I think the team really matters, and we were lucky enough that one of our co-founders comes from manufacturing background. That's his expertise. That's where he has always been. The other co-founder is a designer, and he did industrial design kind of thing on his spare time and can think through those things. And I myself and my best friend, both of our engineers, so we can take care of the app, the tech side, and we move fast on it. So having the perfect team fit is very key, and I think behind every great business are amazing people. So in order to create a good business, you have to have amazing people.
And so how did you guys actually set up the production facilities? Where are the bikes made?
So the bikes are made in Pakistan and China. So we were down there for a month, figuring out our supply chain, signing buyers and suppliers, and the bikes are made there, but all of them are assembled in Toronto. So setting up that supply chain, making sure that supply chain is cheap enough for us that we are going to survive for a long time, and negotiating those prices down was fun.
So what's that like? Where do you even start? How do you go to China or Pakistan, or did you guys already have connections?
Yeah, so we already had connections. So our fourth co-founder, as I said, he's a manufacturer. He manufactured field hockey sticks before this. So he pretty much took out his phone and contacted all of the suppliers, and it's I sold this business out. I'm moving into bikes. Are you with me or are you with me not? So pretty much we had 30 meetings set up even before we flew down to China, and we knew how to deal with them. We've gone through the whole process. So we were lucky enough that we had the expertise. But if you're someone new going down there, you've got a lot of learning to do.
I was about to ask, did anyone at Founder Fuel have those connections, or was it all you guys?
That was all us. So Founder Fuel came in more towards we're taking the business to the market. So that's another thing. We were a hardware company in Founder Fuel, which is a software-based accelerator. So I was talking to a lot of people. Yo, I signed up 10 customers, or I'm signing up 50 customers every single day, or my growth rate is this. I'm I signed up one supplier. So it was ours was completely different in terms of how we were growing and our expertise areas, which was funny. But yeah, so we came in, we knew we had the expertise to create the product, but we knew we didn't have the expertise to take it to the market, and that's where Founder Fuel came in and really helped us take it to the market.
How did you guys already know, before the process, that you didn't have the right expertise? Did you foresee that problem, or was that something that you kind of learned as you went along? Because a lot of entrepreneurs sometimes don't know what they don't know, and then you end up making a mistake. It sounds like you guys were pretty self-aware.
Yeah, so we knew where our expertise were, and we knew where we lacked. I studied engineering and computer science at Queen's. I never touched marketing, and I knew I was supposed to be the guy who was supposed to take it to the market. And I knew I had the mind, but I didn't have the experience to do it. So now me being able to pick people's mind and be like, yo, how did you do this? How do you do that? Or what was the mistakes that you encountered and how can I not encounter those things were very, very valuable conversations that, I took.
And so through that whole process of like, I guess right up till today, Founder Fuel, everything, what was your biggest mistake and what was the biggest success of the whole story?
So I came in as a student and I still had the student attitude. I was like, I'm just gonna go drink all night and just come back kind of thing. And it's not, it doesn't work like that anymore. It's like you've got long nights ahead of you and you're gonna work your butt off. And a week or 2 weeks in, like Ian sits me down and he's like, he says right in my face, like, Al, you're fucking up. And he says right in my face and I'm just sitting there, I'm like, holy shit. It was kind of like a realization that like, this is my company and I'm going to be the one making it or breaking it. And working like 24/7 on something that you really believe in and very passionate about was what I really wanted to do. But I was like in the honeymoon phase of startup. I was like, yo, this life is sick. Like, all my friends are doing exams while I'm like trying to build this thing. The reality is like it's a lot of hard work and grind and a lot of long nights, a lot of like times where sometimes I'd even go home and I just slept at the couch in the office, and that's what it took, right? And I remember like 5 nights before the launch, I flew back in from San Francisco, and we were gonna launch in the next 2 days, and there were 0 emails. So I knew I had to write around 2,000 emails to every single person I've ever known, letting them know that I'm launching this Kickstarter. I knew I had to write around 1,200 Facebook messages, like each one of them being personal. So I stayed up like 2 nights in a row, not going to sleep, and I had like carpal tunnel because I felt like a monkey just typing away, but it was something I had to do. And it's the hustle and the grind, man, that takes you far.
And what was like the biggest moment so far? Was it like launch day or was it hitting that Kickstarter goal?
I think it was hitting the 100K.
Yeah.
The 100K was crazy.
What'd you guys do to celebrate?
We all went out to the bar and we got champagne bottles.
I would too. So I'm still curious though too. Like so like I said earlier, you guys were building the bike, you're building the app, and then you're trying to create like an experience for the urban commuter around it. So how do you pull in like all the details? It's still your MVP, I guess.
Yeah. So the MVP was very important to us. Like at one point we got a lot of people are like, oh, like ditch the bike. This is gonna like really drain you and just create an accessory, or ditch the whole hardware and just go into software. But what we felt like our sweet spot was like right in the middle, where you do the perfect marriage between the hardware and the software, and we knew we had the perfect team to do it. It's kind of like it sounds like weird, but it's like Apple. Apple wouldn't be there without the hardware or the software. It's like the perfect match. And if you talk to Steve Jobs like in the 80s when he was creating it, and right now I'm like, oh no man, screw the hardware, like it's gonna be too expensive, or screw the software and just do this. It doesn't work like that. It's what you feel which is right, and the gut feeling has got to be there. And a lot of people are going to be telling you like, yo, it's impossible, or it's not going to happen, or this is going to be hard. But you just got to go out and do it. Nothing is impossible if you really put your head and mind to it.
Cool. And so now leading up to that Kickstarter campaign, I mean, you guys ended up getting the Kickstarter got covered by TechCrunch, NBC, Style Magazine, like I don't know how many others, like at least 12.
Yeah.
So what was your marketing strategy leading up to that Kickstarter? How'd you get the word out?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different little hacks, if I must say I did. So we signed up a really good PR agency. A lot of startups are like, oh, don't put money into PR agency. Kind of goes to the burn. It's like, no, you got to find the perfect fit, because like these guys are the one pitching your company pretty much. And you got to find the perfect fit in there. You might burn a lot of money, but it's a perfect trajectory that you need in the starting. So we signed guys from San Francisco. Their main person that uses them is Apple's. And to sign them took a long time, because we had to go in, pitch it to them, and they really had to believe in our product, because they were the one who were going to pitch it. So PR agency was one of them. But even before I went into the PR agency, I knew the 20 reporters I wanted to hit, and I had them on my phone all the time. So every time they tweeted or did anything on Twitter, I knew about it, and I would be like tweeting back at them, favoriting their tweets or retweeting it. So I became like this face that they always saw all the time. It's like it was weird because they were like, yo, you were the guy who was always favoring every single tweet of mine. I was like, a bit creepy, but yes.
It's actually funny because I think it might have been last week. It was either last week or 2 weeks ago. I think it was cartoonist Hugh, I forget his last name anyway. It's one of the famous cartoonists or whatever like that. And he said, I can't believe we're doing this, like something like that. And right away within like, I think it was 15 minutes or less, he had responded being like, hey, sorry, why, like, I don't know. It was very polite, very professional. And it seemed by the end of it, like you'd almost turned him into a customer through like 6 tweets.
I
saved it.
I remember that conversation. I forgot. Yeah, it was interesting because like Twitter is like, it's this new platform of communication if you really think about it. And it's like the only way to directly connect with your customer. It's like there's nothing in the middle. And you know, if you really think deeply into it, it's like it like boggles my mind because like I can pretty much tweet at anyone and be like, "Yo, this is who I am. Check me out," kind of thing. And that's something we are very aware of, and something that you have to be very on top of. And I hate it, but I love it at the same time because you're always plugged in. And sometimes I just want to like throw my phone out of the window because you're just like, I just want to stay away from it.
Mm-hmm.
But
so you had a targeted list of reporters before the Kickstarter.
Yes.
You guys put the Kickstarter. How did you get the Kickstarter up? Did you guys reach out to Kickstarter, or did you just do it through the regular process? Was there anything special, or?
Yeah, so we had a connection to Kickstarter, but they weren't like super helpful in terms of like they're like, this is the process, this is the application, go put it in. We signed up the guy who did the Pebbles video, amazing dude. So we flew out to San Francisco, did a video down there. That was a lot of fun, but a lot of work. It rained 2 days of the 4 days that we had scheduled for filming, so we had 2 days left. I remember putting in the video like 10 minutes before when we were going to launch our Kickstarter. So I hadn't even seen the video, like full out cut of like 10 minutes before the Kickstarter was going to go live. I had so much trust in the guy I signed that I was like, you know what, if I'm paying him this much and I've spent like 2 weeks with him, I can trust him that he is going to pour his life into making sure my video is the best. So making sure the people that you work with are people that you can trust really, really closely and kind of pour your passion into it, and then he becomes passionate with it. And he will do everything in his hands to make it or to get it done. We signed up 10 reporters. We had an email list of 1,000 people who were really interested into our bike. So we knew we were going to have a conversion rate of around 10% once they sent out the email to buy it on the first day. And that's what happened. So we syndicated around 1,000 sales beforehand, talking to people one-on-one. And then when I sent out the email, it was a conversion rate of 10%. That's why we hit the 100K in 30 hours. So a lot of people think that it's magic that you just launch a Kickstarter campaign and Kickstarter does this like pixie thing and all these users just come there. But the reality is like about 90% of the traffic is driven by you. And you're the like traffic driver in that. And either that's through, press, that's through some ads, or whatever it is. For the initial push, it was like me writing around 2,000 emails and 1,000 Facebook messages on the first day. And, Tim Ferriss talks a lot about it on his blog, where how do you do these like social viral components where instead of you telling them to go to your Kickstarter, you land them on a page where you tell them to share everything before they go on Kickstarter. So those are things that we controlled really heavily and took it in-house and really created these like viral loops where people will share the shit out of it.
So those 1,000 emails that you guys kind of had pre-set up, was that just from like email capture to a website, or like how'd you get those 1,000 emails?
Reddit. A lot of trolls.
Just posting like, hey guys, this is what we're doing, sign up here?
No, it was like, it's like, oh, you seem interesting in bike, this is what you like, what do you think about our bike? And they would like give us some feedback, and we're like, oh, thank you for the feedback, we really appreciate it, this is what we're going to change in it, and you're like helping us create this company, and they're like, oh, I'm excited, now I'm part of this company, and I'm actually help them building this product. And then they get excited, they're like, yo, if you guys actually launch, let me know right away, because I might be interested in buying. And then I'm like, perfect, can you go sign up on your email list right here? So I never shoved it in their face. I like, yo, go sign up here. I always asked their feedback. I always asked and cared about the end user, because a lot of the times people just ask but never give, which is really annoying to me. So I'm always like the giver, and then the asker, and it becomes a lot stronger of a thing to do at that point because they feel connected to you, and the personal connection is very strong for me. I did Reddit. I did SF2G, which is San Francisco to Google. So these guys bike every single day to Google from San Francisco, which doesn't make sense to me. But I went in there, I became one of the users, and I started to mine that area. I looked at different like blogs, forums.
So you're basically just looking for pockets of bikers, basically.
Exactly.
Cyclists.
Exactly. And then Shopify interviews, that syndicated a lot. PwC, Bain and Company, McKinsey, where I knew people would have the money enough. Like $1,000 purchase is not going to be big for them. And that was like my key area, that some people I can convince and they'll get excited about my product.
How did you guys come up with the price point? Was it like, or can you even talk about that? Or,
Yeah,
because I know
absolutely.
Kickstarter requires you to give some pretty crazy discount, right? Like,
Yeah. So the reason why we came up with $1,000 is because almost all carbon fiber bikes start from $2,000 plus, and we wanted to undermine the whole market and create a whole new market inside of this and be like, we are the first ever smart bicycle in this market. So I don't know if you guys like know about like the blue ocean strategies where you create a whole new market out of something that was never there. And that was something that I was very keen about. Like I wanna create something that's never been there, and I wanna be the first person in that market to drive that market to expand to become something big. And so that's how we wanted to go undermine the whole market, where everyone's looking at these $2,000 plus carbon fiber bikes. They're all meant for racers. Everyone discontinues the commuter, who's like the everyday Joe, who's actually riding their bicycle from point A to point B. So that's where we looked at that, and that's how we came with the $1,000 price point. There's a lot of like strategies behind it. Like if you go to like a bike shop and you ask them for a commuter bike, most of the bikes are going to cost you around $800 to $1,200, and then you want to like jump a scale and be like, oh, I want a better bike. Then you're looking around $1,500 to $2,000, and if you're like a big baller and like, yo, I can like throw my credit card, it's not a big deal. And then you're looking around $25,000 to $5,000 in a good bike.
So. And so what's the regular price going to be?
So it's $1,200 and $1,400.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, with this Kickstarter, as it's going, you guys hit your first target within the first 30 hours.
Mm-hmm.
But then what did you do the rest of the time? Did you just sit back, or like you guys ended up raising 8 times? You know, how did the PR agency keep pushing for you, or was it you guys?
So it was interesting because like we ran out of the money really fast with the PR agency for the launch, and then I got a grant from Mars out in Toronto, and I had like 2 PR agencies working side by side. I would never recommend that, but I had a pretty good niche on like how I'm going to be controlling that and who are they going to be hitting. So I had 2 of these guys working side by side and hitting different press at the same time. So yeah, we saw like a dead zone in the middle of our campaign where we were like, holy shit, like nothing's happening. Like we were used to getting like 30 to 40K a day in money, and now we're down to like 5 to 10K. And we were like, oh, this is not good. And that's when we switched our story and came up with a new pitch, which was like, we are the fastest growing Kickstarter campaign in Canada. We are on a trajectory to go to $1 million. We did a Kickstarter like raise in 30 hours, and we are the next big thing coming out of the Canada scene. And that was the story that we pitched. That was the one that got picked up by USA Today. That was the one that got picked up by Vice, and you know all the last people who brought in a lot of the money. The very interesting thing was, though, you would imagine all these big press are the ones that are driving your numbers for money, but the actual drivers were the small bloggers, and they were the ones who brought in like 30 or 40K worth of money, and like TechCrunch only brought in like 5K or like 4K, and you would imagine that like, oh my god, like you're gonna get this like big trajectory because of TechCrunch, but the reality is that's not like your perfect audience. A lot of the times TechCrunch will write something and you'll see a big spike and then it's dead. Whereas the small bloggers have these like curated lists, and they have these very big fanboys backing them, and they will pour whatever that blogger says into. And that's where we saw like a lot of money coming in. So we switched our strategy. Instead of pouring money and trying to get into like Wall Street Journal or New York Times, we're like, screw that, let's pour more money into the small guys because they're the one driving the money and not the traffic. So
that's an excellent kind of segue. So I was going to say, I've noticed that, you know, you said that one of the biggest drivers for going to Founder Fuel was to shape the story, and it seems like your story's kind of evolved. So how do you build that story into a brand, and a brand that resonates with, you know, the very specific individuals who are going to be buying your product?
Absolutely. So we were very, very, very keen about creating something that is human. Someone is driving that. So I don't want to be another corporate kind of thing. I've my phone number is on the website. Every single backer knows my phone number. I've gotten calls at 3 a.m. from like Dubai and be like, "Yo, I backed you. When are you guys sending a survey?" I'm like, "Do you know the time in Canada right now? Like, like seriously?" But the reality is like we want to be the people behind this company, and we want to make sure we as people are humble enough to help anyone who's out there that needs the help. Or if anyone has a concern, they don't have to go through like emails or crap like that. It's like, no, I'm gonna be right there, and I'm gonna help you, whatever problem you are having, because in the end, my customer is my king, and they dictate whatever I do. And that's something took me a while to understand. But we've gone as far as like, this is my phone number. If you ever need me, give me a call, and I'm gonna be there 24/7. And it's kind of cool that you trying to create this company, and as a customer, you're like, holy shit, the CEO just told me to call, or the CEO just told me to call, and he was on the phone with me just because I had a small concern. It's very powerful because they turn into your brand ambassadors. They're like, yo, this company is not like this just a random company. There's these really cool people behind it, and that's why I really care about this company. So
crazy. So originally you guys were only going to ship to a few countries, and then the Kickstarter ended up blowing up, and you had to add how many more countries? Like,
too many, man.
So how did you guys actually scale and handle that growth? Like,
So the first night we hit TechCrunch, the second night we hit TechCrunch Japan, the third night we hit some magazine in Singapore, and the fourth night we hit something in UK. I think it was The Guardian or the Daily Mail, and it just kind of like blew up. And I got like so many emails in one night that like, I will pay whatever it takes for your bike to come to Singapore. I'll pay whatever it takes to get to UK. And we were like, we need enough demand for us to open it up. So we kind of put them in a list, and we were like, get your friends to get excited too, as excited as you are. And if you can bring a customer or two on the table, we will open up the shipping to there. So we waited in a time where like we were like, okay, this is our Kickstarter is kind of dying. To open up these like different like countries is gonna give a big jump to us. So we stagnated all of these open. So we knew UK is gonna be a big one. We knew Netherlands is gonna be a big one, but we had no clue about Singapore because I've never been there. I don't really know much about that country. But once we hit that place, it was like I got like 50 orders in a night. I was like, holy shit. So yeah, we working with a good shipment company. We made sure that we can actually ship there. We made sure the box sizes were the perfect dimensions. We looked at the import taxes and all of those things, and then we opened it up after a long time to making sure that we can actually deliver there.
That's crazy. Okay, so my next question was going to be, so how are you guys growth hacking this biker industry? Are you growth hacking it?
I hate that word, man.
You hate that word?
It's like, no, it's just like.
Okay, so how are you disrupting it? How are you guys so?
I'm not okay. I'm also like disrupting is like not a good word for me. It's like, oh, you're just like another guy who's trying to disrupt something. I think it's more something that we created that we had a big passion for, and something that we saw that was missing in that industry. And once you create something that you see that's missing and something that you're so passionate about, magic kind of happens in that area. And that's something that I'm very, very true believer of. That create something that you're super passionate about that you actually as a user would use every single day. Because the last thing is like you create something and you don't even use it. Why the hell would a customer use it? So you got to be the biggest champion of your product. And yeah, so I don't know about growth hacking, but in the end, like just be human and try to connect with people in a sense that they never expect, and things will happen for you really fast. And I like to see myself someone who's like someone who will care for someone out of their goodwill. And once you start doing that for your customers, they become your brand ambassadors, and things happen from that point on. It's not really growth hacking. It's just like being more human.
Yeah. But so do you guys have any big partnerships? Like are you guys on the radar of other bike companies now? Or are people calling you like like Garmin or Strava? Are they like, yo, Vanhawks?
I don't know if I want to say that on the camera right now.
Sure.
There's some big news in the pipeline.
Oh, nice. Okay. So what are the plans, like marketing? How are you guys going to keep growing this in the future?
So we're going to be doing direct sales. We're going to be doing pop-up stores. We have pretty good partnerships aligned up that I can't really say out, but they're exciting for us. We're raising a big venture round, and which is really exciting. Fred Wilson wrote about us on his blog, which is like, I just got like a big influx of emails, and I was like, what is happening? And people were like, dude, Fred Wilson wrote about you. He's like one of the biggest VCs down in the valley. And I was like, it was really cool because now we're on radar of every big person out there. And now we've got this momentum going, and we've got this hype going, and we just gotta keep killing it in that area, and we gotta keep making it bigger and bigger. And it's cool that, like, you know, I could go sign up some retail shops, or I can go sign up distributors. But what we want to do is we want to kind of disrupt the business model of it too. We want to kind of shift it on its head. That everyone would imagine us being like, yo, they just gotta sign some dealers and distributors, but we don't want that. We want to be like the Bubbly Park or you know, Frank and Oaks, where they're shipping it directly and they're cutting every single person in the middle. And that's what we're trying to do with the biking industry, that we're cutting every single person in the middle. And we're gonna have like these pop-up shops where I can set up a shop in a day and I can take it down in a day.
So coming back to the Kickstarter, I mean, it kind of put you guys on the map for a while, but are you still feeling those effects? Like, it's still going?
Yeah, so like now it's like a lot of press is still coming in. It's like now I'm like lining them up. I'm like, no more press. Now we're gonna be doing press when we do our first shipment for the product reviews. So we're stagnating our momentums. That like we know we're gonna have these dead areas. How do we make sure that they're not gonna stay there for too long? So, you know, having always something in the pipeline that's gonna increase our sales, increase our traffic, and put us back on the map.
Exactly, because I was going to say it snows a little bit in Canada.
Yeah, I know that. Don't remind me, man.
Don't remind you. Okay.
So San Francisco.
I was curious what you guys were planning on doing for some of those areas, like marketing-wise.
Yeah, so like Australia is big, so it's like completely different. We had a lot of orders from there.
Wicked.
So we just jump over the ocean and go down there, kind of thing, for that moment.
Where have you guys gotten the most orders from?
Germany, I think.
Germany. Wow.
Well, out of North America, Germany is like the most orders. I did not expect. Second one is Netherlands, and then I think it's Singapore, and then it's UK.
Okay. So. And so I know you guys are in this kind of health bike area, but are there any other areas or markets or technologies that are really exciting to you right now, or is it all really healthcare and personalized tech?
So I wouldn't say it's like healthcare or personalized tech. I think our bigger vision is changing the way of urban commuting. So we want to take people from point A to point B really fast, efficient, safer. Whatever it is, we want to be the people that create it. We want to be the people that are going to be making this personal commuting really, really amazing. And that's where our bigger vision is, that like maybe it's bikes, or maybe whatever it is in the future, we want to be the one creating that thing. And we want to be...
I forgot to put my phone on quiet.
You can go ahead, turn it off, man.
Just do something. Thank you. Is it you? Are you calling me? Sorry, so you were saying you guys have that vision?
Yeah, we have that vision of like changing the way of urban commuting and getting from point A to point B.
Wicked. Okay. So there's.
They want you.
Somebody wants me. That's stupid. If you there's no password. Just swipe it and then just lower the volume. Throw it out the window or any new phone anyway. So there's a few young entrepreneurs, especially these guys right up here. So what kind of advice would you give to young entrepreneurs? Sorry, I didn't mean to point you out.
Yeah.
So you know what advice would you give to young entrepreneurs who are still in school? They want to start something. How would you go about it? What would you do?
Hustle, man. I remember like so when I was in school, Jack Dorsey was gonna come speak at Toronto, and I was like, I gotta be there. I didn't have a ticket. I sneaked into the conference from the back door. I heard that there's gonna be an after party. I was like, that means I might be able to meet Jack, and there's like no absolutely way that they were gonna let me in. I sneaked into it from the back door. So it's just like if you want to do something, you will figure out a way to do it. And the first thing I did was like, I went through the kitchen. I was like, yo, I'm the volunteer. Like, nothing sketchy here. I had my backpack on. I wasn't really wearing the attire to be in that event because of a black tie. I go in there. I had this name tag from the conference I like stole from someone. I didn't really have anything else. I didn't have any business cards. So I go in there, and I was, instead of getting business cards, I was like, just write your email on this name tag. And I still have that name tag. And one of the Founder Fuel mentors was one of the guys I met there, and he was the one who introduced us and took us from there. So do the hustle, man, whatever it freaking takes. And I know it sounds kind of like cliche or whatever, but if you really want to do something, you'll figure out a way to do it. And yeah, that's like my best advice is like, if you really believe in it, like, don't let anyone else hold you back from what you really want to do. And I remember like when I was looking for jobs and I was going to management consulting, and I was like, I had these interviews with Bain & Company and McKinsey, and when I got the job offer, I was like, holy shit, that's a big number for a student. And I was like, either I can go get this cushy job, or I can create something I really love, and I could do something I'm super passionate about. And at that point, I realized that money is something that comes and goes, and it's a secondary thing to me now. So.
And if anyone was looking to do a crowdfunding campaign, Kickstarter, what kind of advice would you give to them? Would you go the PR route again, or what would you do?
Call me. I have a lot of things to say to them, and yeah, I'll help you guide, because like a lot of people help me guide it. I would go with the PR, but there's a certain way of how you control and handle the PR. I was first time I got lucky enough to be working with one of the best firms out there, amazing people, really passionate about it, and yeah, like I've heard horror stories out of it too. So just be very scarce and like do the right picks, and then yeah, there's a lot of things I think I would change. One of the biggest things that we didn't foresee was cancellation of orders. So 2 or 3 days before the ending of the campaign, we saw like 150 to 200K worth of orders getting canceled. And we were just sitting there like, what the hell's happening? What the hell's happening? And Kickstarter kind of blocks you from messaging those people after they cancel it because they don't want you to get annoying. But I figured out a hack on how to get their message info, and like I was bothering. I was like, why are you canceling? Why are you canceling? Like, how can I bring you back? And it was like different reasons. They're like, oh, it's $1,000 price point. There's this, there's that. But then we realized that like the average pledge on Kickstarter is $70, and our average pledge was $1,000. So it's like a very different numbers game happening there. And most of the people, what they see is like, it's not usually their product getting sold the most, it's the perks. So like you'll sell a lot of shirts and a lot of different things. We didn't sell any of those things. We sold mostly our product. And that's because we drove the traffic to our thing, and we were the guys behind that. So.
Cool. Two more questions before we turn it over to the crowd. One, if you were a superhero, what superpower would you have?
I knew you were gonna ask me that.
I know.
I
feel like it's gonna be a really good one.
I don't know, man. I got asked this in a job interview, and I was just sitting there. I was like, "What the hell?"
Would you answer then?
It was something with like reading other people's mind.
Okay. What would it be now? But it hasn't changed. If it changed.
No, it hasn't changed. It'll be something around there. I'm a guy who's like who really cares about other people, and I wanna be there to help people out, whatever it takes. And however, that's why I'm very interested in listening to other people's stories. I hate talking myself because I'm pretty boring. The other person on the other side is a lot more interesting to me. So yeah.
Okay, well now I'm gonna flip this. So before we started this, I heard a story about getting held over on visa. So I want to know that story. So you can't be that boring.
Oh man, so yeah, so 3 days before the launch, I had the interview with TechCrunch, Fast Company, and a couple of the other ones. I crossed the border before that with my brother, which was easy because I wasn't the one talking and he was, and he just made up a story. But I was dumb enough to tell them that like, oh yeah, this is my bike, this is my company, and the first thing they do is like they open up Google, they put my name in there. First thing came up is my LinkedIn profile. They're like, so what the hell are you doing in States? And I said I'm doing an interview, and the only thing he heard was like interview. So it's like job interview. I was like, no, it's called a press, like newspaper. And they didn't understand that, so they detained me for like a couple of hours. And it was like they opened up my whole luggage. They took out the bike. They're like, what the hell is this? We had like chipsets in there so you could see the chip and everything. So it became even more sketchier. They're like, what the hell is this? And if I missed that flight, that meant like I missed the Kickstarter campaign. That meant I missed all the press. So I kind of went on my knees and I begged the supervisor. I was like, this is my fucking life, dude. I need to like get on that plane that's sitting out there, I will do whatever it takes. And I like literally like almost started crying in front of him. And he's like, holy shit, you're passionate about this. I was like, dude, you don't understand. This is my life. And he's like, don't tell this to anyone. I'm gonna let this one go. Never do this again. But like in terms of like, don't tell like everyone in there. I was like, I don't care. Like, thank you for letting me go, kind of thing. And I ran through the airport because I was the last one on the plane at that point. So
all these videos go viral. You know that.
Sorry, man.
All right, let's flip it over to you guys. I'm sure you guys have a lot of other questions for Ali. Who's up first? Mark.
I had a quick question. I'm wondering why you chose Vanderfield. If you come from the GTA environment, but you've got some good ecosystems over there. So why did you go to Montreal?
No, like, it was the right time at the right fit. They were one of the people who were accepting applications, and it was the right people that we wanted to work with. We loved Real Ventures. I loved Ian Jeffrey. Every single people that were in there were very humble. And when we were pitching, before that, we were pitching to VCs, and everyone said no. And those guys came in. They're like, you guys got something. And they really understood us as people. And they really believed in us, and not just the product, but the whole team. So I think the whole product fit in terms of like who they were and how they structured everything was right for us. And then the timing worked out perfectly, and they were just. If I had to redo it again, hands on, eyes closed, I'll pick Vanderfield again.
Yep. Go.
I know you said that you dropped out of Queens, but I'm wondering what kind of skills or things that you learned from your time there, aside from the program, that helped you in your life.
So that's a great question. I never went to class, so I really didn't learn anything in class per se. I really learned how to network there. Queens has a very, very, very big network of alumni. And when I was going down to San Francisco, I just went on LinkedIn and wrote like SF Queens, and anyone I emailed from there, and I was just like greetings from Queens, and they're like, holy shit, you're a Queens grad. Come down, have a coffee with me, I'll take you out. And that's something I learned. And on top of that, I was a journalist at Queens. So I worked for my school newspaper down there. That taught me how to work hard, how to time manage. And every Tuesdays and Thursdays were press days, so I was going home around like 4 or 5 in the morning because I was the one sending the paper off to the printer. And people would be going to class, and I would be going home to sleep. So it was like a weird thing that I did in my second year. That's when I learned how to be professional. That's when I got picked up at the Score, at Globe and Mail, so my content was worthy enough. And man, I did less of school. I did more of outside learning. So I was part of like a lot of clubs. I was part of our student government. That taught me a lot. And I think clubs and all those things that you do outside of your class are a lot more important than what you do in your class.
Yep.
Ali, you said you were fortunate to work with a production company that had done something for someone else, and I didn't quite catch what you said. Who was that? What did they do?
Yeah, so no, our fourth co-founder is a production guy. So he's gone through the hustle. He's gone through signing contracts. He's gone through talking to manufacturers. So we were lucky enough to sign a couple of the best factories in China to work with us.
I think you mean specifically like who made the video.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
oh,
For the Kickstarter
Oh,
campaign.
sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was Paul. So PCD Productions, and we got an intro to him through someone I met in Montreal.
And they did the Pebble video, you said, right?
Yes.
The smartwatch, the first
Yeah.
one, yeah.
And Pebble was the most successful Kickstarter campaign in the world.
Insane. Sanjay, and then we'll go to this side.
What was the length of time between when you initially came up with the idea of the bike to say when you oversubscribed on Kickstarter?
Last summer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Kickstarter just closed, so it was about a year.
Almost about a year, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So take us around.
Yeah, you right there.
Are there any proprietary aspects to the bike, design or copyright or patents?
Yes.
Or,
But we are very big believers in the sense that like we're very, very up putting money into getting patents. We hate the fact that we don't want to preserve, we want to keep innovating, and that's our philosophy. And all of us came together and we said that like it's kind of like if we disclose our recipe, we kind of like disclose everything, and we just don't want to protect ourselves for the sake of protecting. Yes, it's a good business decision, but we are thinking of like we just don't want to be stagnant on this one innovation. We always want to keep moving, and that's why we're very, very thoughtful in not preserving stuff, but keep innovating.
Alex?
Was there ever a point where the four of you came together and said, okay, this is our like upward limit, like we're not gonna, if this exceeds a certain sort of input from the four of us, we're just gonna say fuck it, like we don't wanna bankrupt ourselves, we don't wanna bankrupt our families, that kind of thing?
Yes. We all gave ourselves 16 months, and so yeah, 16 months were like our upper limit. That this is if it's not working, we're gonna close the shop.
Jeff?
So you're obviously very successful with the marketing for the Kickstarter. You've got some great features in the bike.
Thank you.
But if you can't grow it in, let's say, the Ottawa market, me buying one in the Ottawa market, the bike's gonna, some of the feature sets are gonna be useless. So
I agree.
So what is your plan going forward to grow in specific markets, like the large city market?
Yeah, so we're going to be very geolocated, like centering in terms of marketing. It's a network effect, right? Like our bike is very, very, it becomes very like insane if the network effect kicks in. I'm not going to stop you from buying a bike in like Singapore or somewhere, because in the end, the utility of going from point A to point B is still there. But those extra feature sets get unlocked when there's a lot of them in the one area. So yeah, we're certainly going to be targeting certain places and growing the business there and kind of taking it from there and seeing what works and replicating that in other cities.
Yep.
Ellie, so this is a smart bike. Are you going to provide a way or provide an open platform where people can build their own modules and build their own apps on top of the bike?
Absolutely. So we have an API for it where you can kind of hack around and do whatever you want. We're going to open it up when we ship our bike. So some of the cool things some of the developers have come up with is like racing between each other or racing after zombies or crazy stuff like that where you can do whatever you kind of want to do with the bike. And that's when it really unlocks the very powerful niche in this industry.
Moni?
When you were talking earlier about reaching out to the bloggers, you said you put money aside for that purpose. So how do you allocate money for the bloggers then? Can you explain that?
Yeah, so when we launched, Kickstarter kind of gives you the tracking numbers of like who's bringing the traffic and who's actually converting the number into sales. And TechCrunch brought in, and then all of a sudden we see this blog called Uncrate brought in $30K worth of money, and we're like, what the hell is this thing? Uncrate, like I've never heard of it. And my friends are like, dude, it's like the sickest blog ever. Like I buy all my stuff from there. I'm like, okay, makes sense, because people are very loyal to it. So when we launched, we got these like all these good press, and what that did was like it made our story very powerful to tell to the smaller bloggers, because they were like, oh, so this person wrote this person wrote this. I'm gonna write about it, because they get SEO through that. So there's like different ways of how you approach it, and we allocated that money to our PR because they were like, this is how much money you kind of have left, this is how many hours you have left in there, where do you want us to focus? And I was like, try to focus on the smaller guys now because they're bringing in a lot more revenue. But then what I also after realized was like, it's the effect of like, if you get like 30% of their top tier press, everyone kind of just pours in. And after that, you just kind of sit back and watch people just write stories about you. So there's like a lot of different things that will have gone into works for that, and that's really, really interesting.
Yep, right over here.
Yeah, Ali, two quick questions. There are a couple other crowdfunding venues out there, like Indiegogo. You compare it before you went into Kickstarter, why? And quick question for what was your budget like to run the campaign?
Yeah, so our budget, like what we raised, we allocated around 30 to 40% of the budget. So that was around like $20K. We allocated towards fundraising for Kickstarter. And yeah, so we did compare heavily Indiegogo versus Kickstarter. It's like one of the questions, I guess, the first question I got asked, like why Kickstarter over Indiegogo? When we were doing it, Kickstarter had a very robust application process and it was very curated, and they picked the products that were gonna go on there. And whereas Indiegogo is very algorithmic, so you can actually hack Indiegogo, and I didn't want to be beside a campaign that was kind of like I didn't really believe in. because Indiegogo was kind of going through this scammy campaign. I don't remember what it's called anymore, and they were getting a lot of bad press at that moment. And we don't want to be beside that campaign at that moment. But right now, if I had to rethink about which one I will pick, it'll be a very hard decision. Because Indiegogo Canada guys are amazing, and they'll help you out throughout the process. And as I said, like, I'm a big believer in people, and if people behind that company are good people, I will support it.
Kickstarter just opened up the platform too.
Exactly,
They loosened it up a bit. So
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, right.
Now, had you not gone through the accelerator, or had your Kickstarter campaign not been such a resounding success, did you have contingencies or other ways to go about getting your product out there?
We thought a lot about that, man. That's why we put all our eggs in one basket. We didn't think about like plan B. We're like, this has to work. There's no other way. Because the last thing you want is like launching a Kickstarter campaign and it not succeeding, and everyone's gonna be like, so no one's buying this product. Why the hell are you creating it? So we didn't really have contingency plans in that sense. That like we thought about it, but we were like, let's stop wasting our time in that and just focus on making sure that this is gonna work. So.
Yep.
So you mentioned the importance of a strong team a few times, and totally agree, and it's awesome that you found one and you assembled it. Can you speak to any times where you're completely at your wits' end, and you guys are pushed to your limits, and that team didn't work so well together?
He's my older brother. That's all I gotta say. There's been disagreements more than once. It's just like trying to figure out how you're gonna work with those disagreements, and coming down to a conclusion that both of everyone's happy in the team. There's times where I walked out the room because I was so pissed. This time he has done that, and there's time where our CTOs were like, "You guys are like fucking kidding me." So it's like, of course, that's the life of a startup, right? And that's the fun part of it. It's working through these things where if everything was like easy and everyone kind of agreed, then there's something wrong in your team. And if you're not disagreeing all the time, then I think you're not really thinking about the product or whatever you're creating enough. Because all four of us are completely different people, and we bring in completely different thoughts to make sure our product is the best it could be.
Yeah. Talking about the team building and the team working together, is there any kind of, have you thought of keeping the company intact and not breaking up? I mean, is there a 51% owner of the company who has the calling shots?
Of course, the founders do. So the four founders, like, we call the shots.
How do you do it amongst yourselves? Who gets the final?
Like the CEO gets the
Okay.
final shot, and we respect that because he's our leader. And if something that I'm completely disagreed with, he needs to be a good enough leader to make sure that, like, okay, if he really disagrees with it, and then he starts listening and he's like, how can I bring this whole team together to make sure what I'm doing is the perfect way of making sure where we want to go. And all of our visions are very aligned, and we all think the same way in terms of where the company's going to go. It's just calling the smaller shots. It's like, if I disagree with him and if he thinks it's the best way to go, I'll respect him over that because he's the CEO. And that's a very important dynamic, that you have to have a leader that you can respect and stand behind whatever it takes.
So the CEO has pretty much the 51% ownership. He can hire and fire.
It's not really the percentage moment. It's more towards like, we respect him in the sense that like we came as a co-founding team and we selected him to lead the company. And if we fully disagree, then he's not being a good enough leader to make sure that what we're saying, he's not listening. So we haven't crossed that path where I'm gonna leave or this or that. Maybe in the future he will call the shots, and I will respect him for that.
I mean, respect is one thing, but power and authority are separate. So I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah. So he holds the power and authority in that area, that he leads the team. It's not about like the percentage. It's more about like he's a CEO and he will call the shots in the end.
That's cool. It's awesome. Was there one at the back there? You guys, Brian?
Where'd you get that sweet shirt?
What is it?
So, I don't know. I know this awesome company that got me to come down here.
Someone dared me to do that.
I was gonna ask you how some of the other teams were, especially the inky ones, but
Sketch bags.
we'll wait for later. Moni, do you have another one?
Yeah, your discussion about picking a leader, how did you guys come about figuring out, and how hard was it?
It wasn't hard at all.
Okay.
We knew that like he's got the right fit for it, and we all respected him in that manner, and he's the one that guides the team forward. And it was like we all have our expertise, and we all believe in each other, and whoever like is good at one thing will lead that area, and everyone else will kind of follow it in that sense, and they'll give their input. So.
Sounds wicked. Yes.
With all these people pulling at your sleeves, well, how serious are you about helping people like me?
Well, it depends, right? Like I have a certain amount of time, and it's like how serious is the other person in what they're trying to do. And I usually try to allocate either my mornings or my evenings to other people, and have the rest of the day allocated to myself. And I'm a pretty like fearless guy in terms of like I will help someone out, but there's a certain extent where they're like just pulling at your sleeve just because they can, and it's like no, like you have a little bit of access, and access is money for me kind of thing, and I'm gonna cut you off really soon, and if you come bad in my eye, like I'm that kind of a guy. If I'm not helping you and I'm someone who helps everyone, that's a lot to say. So yeah, access is money in my eyes, so use it wisely.
I used up my favor. Do you guys have any more questions for Ali? Oh, yeah, one more at the back.
What's your plan on a deal, like your daily tasks? How do you plan on communicating with every single one of your customers if they have questions and making sure that they're satisfied? Are you concerned with not ever having enough time for everyone?
Of course, dealing with 800 customers is a lot of effort right now. So I allocate like 2 hours every single day just replying back to their emails. And I usually do, if I get an email, I reply back to it right away because they love that. And it's like, holy shit, dude, you just replied back to me in a minute. I was like, yeah, because I care about you. So yes, at one point where I'll be hiring more people, but I think that culture is going to be set very in stone that like we really, really care about every single individual that will come to our company to buy something.
So with these people that work with you, would they be responding as if they are you, or?
They'll be responding as someone who works for the company, pretty much. And it's not about working for the company, it's about really believing in what we're doing, and that's something that we are very, very, like, we really hold strong on that when we hire. And, like, that person's got to fit our team, and we got to fit him. And that's something that we're very aware about. The first thing we ask is, like, how can we fit you as a person, and what do we bring to the table that really excites you about us? So yeah, it's not like Ali's company is Vanhawks. It's like Vanhawks, and there's great people behind it, and those great people are the founding team that created this whole culture, and they really deeply care.
Any other? Yep, sure.
Oh, sorry, I came in late, so I might have missed this, but when are the bikes, are they going to be ready, or let's say I place an order today, how long does that actually get the bike?
So if you place an order today, we're sold out till March 2015. Our first orders go out in October, so we're like fully packed till next year.
How do I get to the front of the line?
You got to talk to Brendan, and then Brendan's got to be like, yo, get him to the front of the line, and then we'll do something about it.
Access is capital. Right?
There you go.
Yes,
One,
go.
one more.
Sure.
Having gone through the process of picking a company name, I have to ask you, Vanhawks. Tell me about that.
It's interesting. So Vanhawks was, so my brother and his best named it, and they named it for a certain few reasons. My brother's best friend loved, his grandfather loved the name Vanhawks. Van means of in German, I believe, and hawk is like the top tier animal. So we really aligned with the values that the hawk as an animal holds, and it's always a top tier. It's the best. It like watches over everything. And then we named Valor, which is like bravery in a war, and you know this is a bike, which is the best. And it's like and so a lot of those values were, it's like yeah, we hold them strong. It's a cool name, man.
All right, well, if there's no more questions, I'd like to just give just a few announcements. We're going to go grab some beers and some food at the Three Brewers right down the street. If you guys want to join us and chat with Ali, we'll be hanging around here for another like 20, 30 minutes and then head over there. But let's give him a big round of applause. Thanks for coming from Toronto.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much. Oh, man, absolutely.
You did great, man. It's awesome. All right.
Thank you, guys.